What am I doing front? Oh, Michael.
Oh, here we go.
I've written a flow chart.
Flow chart for who?
Everyone's got really complicated really quickly.
You're starting to sound like Chris Knowles.
Yeah. So I've done it on like escapes. I thought that would be the easiest place, but I've ended up with 6 types of side control. So that got hugely complex. And then how like my escapes work off of moving between all the shitty positions. So I've got 7 shitty positions.
I love this. It's going to be like week 8 in lockdown. You're going to be wearing a lab coat and like a little lecture and like just pointing at yes.
Yeah. So today, my day has been, did you ever watch Gargoyles as a kid?
Not that I can remember.
Well, I had a Gargoyles action figure, and they've got all of the episodes. This is like a TV show from 1994 on Disney Plus. So I've watched like 10 episodes today, like 20 minutes. It's brilliant. And it's got all the old Star Trek actors as voice actors in it.
Nice.
So it's got number 1, he's in it. Deanna Troy is one of the actresses. So, good cast.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm going to run through what I got in a bit, but some people asked me last week to show how I would put notes down on this. It's got escapes from everywhere.
Just record it and then hope to remember one thing. Oh dear. I love it. Should we warm up? Let's do it.
So the guys who asked me for notes, how I would take notes on this, I've got it. Right. Your name's Kebab on Zoom. It's great. You should be all right, actually. I'll just try with, oh, you're on it.
I'm on,
But no speaker.
yeah, speaker.
Hey, Ross.
Some good songs. Hello. We got, so look, hey, Ennis.
Hi, everyone.
Ennis, I got notes from, so I've written down some notes. I want to flesh it out a bit. I'll show you. Show everyone. Right, let me spin. So I wanted like to do an escape system. So I started with side control. I ended up with 6 types of side control. So we got, start off with regular side. We've got a collection of escapes underneath this. Moving over to this is hip switch north. So this is a hip switch facing your opponent's head. And then over this side, we've got hip switch south, which there are 3 main ones. You've got the cross face, so the arm is like over in front of the face. You've got the arm, so that's over the head, but not under the arm, it's over the arm. And you've got twister, which is under both arms. The final one's wet blanket, which is more of an advanced one. So that's side control. And then we move into this page. You see these arrows? So kind of how they all connect together, the shitty positions. Now, what I'm struggling with is putting down in writing the escapes that happen during these arrow phases. So, yeah, but that's how I kind of visualize my escape system. Side control was too deep to have on the same page as this. I couldn't fit that, so I put that there. So I wanted to illustrate with this was, so I came up with 7 crappy positions. I think I've got them all down. 6. What am I missing? Neon belly I need to fit in there. But yeah, that's how, I guess neon belly would be off of side control, moving into mount probably. Because I could potentially connect to the back as well. So neon belly would be here. You got arrows that way. Arrows that way. Arrows that way. So anyway, people ask me notes on escaping. That's what I got. Right. So you got, hey Megan. Say hello to everyone. Let's do a bit then. What are we gonna do? So let's do a quick run through some of this. I'll show you the 7 types of side control I can think of and the escapes I'd go for it. And I want to show you how to turtle properly, because that's what I'm going to show you. Turtling effectively from side control opens up, makes these escapes far easier. So your turtle escapes. If we're starting from a static control turtle, it's very hard to implement these escapes if your opponent's good at controlling turtle. But what we want to do is force our opponent to change up control. In these phases where they're changing their control type, it makes it easier for us then to escape because they're fiddling around with the control. So we're going to start in side control, turtling out, maybe covering a little bit of detail in side control position, a number of these positions, but initially turtling out of side control and how that makes Grambian out of turtle easier, and the other escapes here, the tellers escapes and the underhook escapes, easier from turtle. So yeah, we're going to start off with turtling properly out of side control. So put me up there. So, see if it comes on this side and side control. So as soon as you take one of the side controls, so this is hip switch facing my head. Wouldn't turn well for turtle, but one of the standard side controls. One CrossFit. Yeah, she's underhooking the far side, knee is on the hip, and knee in the arm. So the turtle away from my opponent here, I need to get this arm, the one that would be framing on the hip, under and out onto this side here. Now, we've got to be ready for our opponent potentially to threaten our back here as well. So we're going to cover some back escapes off of turtling away. Big thing about turtling away is our hips come up before our shoulders and our head. So we don't want to come up onto our elbow. Yeah? You never want to do that. She's going to take the back very easily. So she's seatbelt here. The turtle from here, the higher we bring this lower foot, the better. And the higher this knee is to my chest, the better. So it limits the space for her to get her hook in, which is great. But the primary thing is that it really gets a lot of elevation on my hips. As I'm turtling, I want to be throwing her weight forward and off of my hips. Okay? So that's a big thing in escaping the turtle position. So we're doing that from side control. So here, high. Onto your shoulder, toes on the ground, kicking off, levering those hips up. So now, here, if we shimmy round a bit, you can see a huge amount of space between my hip and Susie's hip. For Susie to control here in turtle, she needs to get her right hip connected to mine here and base out on the other leg. Once she gets that weight through that hip, I'm going to start struggling to escape. So turtling in this way gives us distance between the hips, which makes it easier for me to go for my escapes in this position. So, in side control, we push up a little bit, giving us a bit of room to free this arm. From here, we're going to start to turn. We're going to drag this elbow down and kick off the floor of our lower leg. Up, levering our hips up. So now, here, she's going to commit a bit of weight. And coming up. The steepness of it, my head being low, my hips coming up, throws her forward. So that's what I want. It's that here. Now we can come to our knees and we can start going for our escapes early here. The first escape I've got written down there is a Granby. You Granby out of turtle by looking for an opportunity when there's no weight on your hips. So turtling like this, weight's off of your hips. A Granby is a roll over your near shoulder here. So you base out on the outside leg, the near side arm goes through, and we roll over that shoulder. No, that's it. It's going to come out. And that's our Granby out of the turtle. So we go straight from the turtle control. I cannot Granby if her hip is heavy. So if her near knee is connected to mine and she's heavy, on this hip, Granbying is going to be very difficult. If somebody's very powerful at Granbying, there's a grip you can take to shut it down as the person controlling, and that is this top hand cupping the inside of my thigh. Good. And if Susie straightens that arm now, it drops her hip hard into my hip. So if she wants to push off of that into that, now I'm not Granbying at all. I'm not going to be able to roll over this shoulder. When you're controlling turtle, make sure you keep weight back on the hip. Don't link your hands up. You don't want to be in that middle position with weight on the shoulders and weight on the hips as well. If your weight's going high up on the shoulders, you're taking the back. Weight's back, you're controlling turtle. So we turtle, let's say there's a bit of weight off of our hips. So you base out on this leg, hand goes through. And now here, key, we kick off of the near side leg to her. So we don't just roll. See, this foot is kicking off the ground, circling in the closed guards. If you're lucky, you can end up in triangles. We're here. We base up. We roll through. kicking off of these near side toes. This throws my hip over this arm. So I'm looking to do when I Granby is my hips to go over her arm. Sometimes they'll try and hold it on, be ready to release, because it can put a little bit of torque on the shoulder when people do it hard. So as I roll through, she forces it to release, and we're back to our closed guard. So that whole drill there, side control. We open a bit of space of our frame, we go through, and now we look to turtle onto our shoulder, kicking off of this lower leg. Sometimes if you want to go straight to a Granby, you can do it from this position. You don't have to go all the way to turtle. We can kick up and now circle this leg over, pull your hand back to center. So exposing your back isn't necessarily a bad thing. We're turning, lower leg onto the floor, we kick off. If the control is too solid, we go all the way to turtle. If not, we can use this opportunity to Granby out, rolling over that shoulder early. So one last time. So out, free, start turning away, knee high, up, face out on that far leg, roll over the near shoulder, reach through your legs, circling, back out to close. How's everyone with that? Cool? Yeah, silence is all good. You can drill it if you like, or talk to me about your notes, if you're taking notes instead. If anyone wants to see it again, please feel free, shout. That's perfect. Michael Blakely, perfect. Great. So we come back down to the notes. That's happening during this transition. So if you want to add notes there on how to turtle effectively. So we can turtle into our opponent as well. It's slightly different. So this is how we turtle away from our opponent. Don't turtle onto our elbow. We come up onto our shoulder, getting our hips high first, getting their weight to travel forward, allowing us to move immediately into a Granby roll. There are also Granbys that happen along this line, not in a full turtle. We're going to cover a bit more of that and then move you onto a front head. Next one, let's move on. So we're going to stay in the turtle control. Now we've covered how to turtle properly. We're going to cover turtle escapes and then move on to some front headlock work. Turtle control. This knee is up by my knee and this leg's faced out. This wants weight on my hip. I don't like that. So if I've turtled effectively, there should be a little bit of room between our hips. And just a little bit. What this also allows us to do, if you're not comfortable with the Granby, is to stand behind our opponent. This is massive in turtle. My side leg is going to go up, and I'm going to put the shin over her calf. So if we move around, Yeah. We're starting. I would not be able to do it if it was really heavy on my hip. Yeah. Stepping up is not an option. So if there's no weight on the hip, I'll be able to step up and bring my knee over the back of my opponent's calf like this. So we've got a number of options. Back around. Now the reason why I don't like bringing my leg entirely through is potential threat of leg locks, my opponent rolling through, grabbing my leg for a knee bar or something. That's why I like having my shin over the back of the calf. If my opponent stays up on this base, I'm going to roll her that way. I'm going to trap this arm, pinch my elbow. I'm going to throw this knee underneath my opponent. So, yeah. I will not be able to do this if she collapses this knee. Now all of her weight is on that side, I'd have to go that way. So this move works as a 1-2. She bases up here. I trap the arm, I throw the knee in, and now here, I elbow, shoots up. And now we end up in, sorry.
What?
So we should end up in a twister side control. Remember the rules of the twister side control, the higher the better. So the moment you get here, your hands will connect with the hips and you'll start pushing yourself up. So your rib cage is running armpit to armpit. So pop up again. Let's go from side control, start. I open space, I turn, I get onto my head by kicking off of that lower leg. Here, this gives me room then, because there's distance between our hips, to step up and correct that calf. From here, that leg's facing up, we trap, we roll through this way, throwing this knee underneath our opponent. If she collapses that knee on the far side, I release the arm, I base, so I'm going to push into her. I don't want this leg basing, so this arm will come up and grab the knee. So from here, I'm going to push off. She's unable to rebase. And then again, I end up in twister side control, where I'm going to push up her body and get as high as I can to control. So again, turtle. In, my leg comes out, and my knee goes behind. Yeah. There's space between our hips which allowed me to do that. From here, I trap this arm, wrist, and clamp the elbow above my opponent's arm. Now from here, I can roll through, knocking her over. There's another angle there under Susie, guys, if it's easier. If she sees this one coming and bases on this knee, I can trap it, push the other way, and end up in twister side control the other way around. Susie and I have just had a big takeaway curry.
So big.
So I'm very concerned about applying too much pressure on her in twister side control. Is everyone having more takeaways than normal during this? I am. Way more. Right. Any questions with that? If not, get drilling, take notes, shout at me, ask me questions. Yeah. 5 minutes of that, and then we'll move on to another turtle escape. That's all right. So for everyone that's not drilling, we'll have a look at the notes again, because I'm going to try fleshing these out as much as possible. So this sheet is the side control start. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 types of side control. We have regular side, hip switch north, that's facing the head. Up here is all hip switch south, that's facing the feet. But there are 3 types of that. You have cross face, you have trap in the arm, so that would be like a Kimura hip switch side control. So that's not over the head, just over the arm. And twister is underneath both arms. The final one would be wet blanket, which I'm not really going to touch on a great deal. It's an advanced one. Off of side control, your opponent has 6 places he can go to. That includes turtle, mount, back, knee on belly, front headlock, or north-south. So those are the branches that should be coming off of your side control there. So then this next sheet covers those 6 positions off of side control. North-south up here from side control. We're moving down this pathway into turtle, gone over the Granby roll, gone over the step behind Tellez 1-2. So Eduardo Tellez uses that escape a lot. I just showed you. Haven't got win the underhook and take the leg. Might cover that one now in a few minutes, give you time to drill. But I think Megan asked me about how it fits together in my head. This is the best crack I've ever had against my escape system on paper.
Thank you. Appreciated for the paper system.
Yeah, it got really complicated. You know, I've got so many like failed attempts.
I think we need to get you a whiteboard and like some coloured pens.
Yeah. So looking at it on the laptop, I can't read it.
All right.
Through the camera.
Well, I'll take a picture
But
of
we
it and
can
post it
watch
on the
it.
group, maybe.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
This
I'll
With
do
a
that.
little stick
Eight
figure
DVD
drawing.
to exit the system, side control.
Yeah. I mean, this may make it onto a DVD. You never know.
You definitely should.
I got a lot of refining to do first. I get performance anxiety putting my stuff out there to the world, you know?
But also, who owns a DVD player?
Very true.
Very good point. Digital download. So I'm 30 now. You gotta take it there. Getting older.
I'm also disappointed that the dyeing of the mohawk hasn't happened.
I know, gotta blame Susie for that.
What was blaming me for?
Not dyeing my mohawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking strong there. It's got a good height to it now.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. I might keep it. It's just that like I'm thinning at the back, so currently I've got a mohawk with a bit of a bald patch in the
Don't
back.
keep it.
Vintage mohawk.
So Susie doesn't want me to keep it. Okay, so right. This one. Now we've all grabbed a leg. I'm switching it round, sorry. We've all grabbed a leg whilst we're into it. So this can happen. Normally it happens with me when she's moving around to a front headlock. So she releases this, moves over, and there's a ease up. So her legs aren't far enough away. So I grab one, right? Now, you can lift up a gable, but I find that's way too easy to sprawl on. So what I mean by that, I lick my hands. Susie's going to drop her right hip to the floor and kick her legs back slowly, please. Like that. And you end up losing your grip. You can't fight against that sprawl. So there's a trick. This hand cups the knee. This hand doesn't link up. It comes down and grabs her ankle. And we start pulling that back, driving our shoulder into her hip. So now when she tries to sprawl, her body doesn't do it. Try sprawling.
I'll try.
Yeah, that's the best sprawl that she has. So, we back up. What we're doing there, instead of taking a gable on the leg, we're cupping the knee, cupping the ankle, turning our shoulder into the hip, and pulling that heel backwards. So that twist that we're applying, like this, from here, we're pulling this leg out, driving that knee, that shoulder into the hip. So we're going to have Susie do it as well. We're going to grab my leg. She's cupping my knee and grabbing my ankle. So pull the ankle open, Susie, and drive this shoulder into the hip. So now, I'm going to try sprawling. That's the best I got. Right? I can't turn into her on the front headlock. I can't do anything here. So whereas if she was taking a gable instead, so just link your hands together, I can freely turn in and get onto that front headlock. So a good grip set from here, cup the knee, pull the ankle, driving the shoulder forward. Your opponent won't be able to turn into you if you manage to grab hold of that leg. Everyone got those details on that grip. So to finish it, we have to then collect the leg between our legs. We've managed to grab this leg. We're cupping the ankle, pulling it open, grabbing the knee. And now, I hope everyone can see my right leg, what it's going to do. I'm going to step up here, dragging this leg between my legs. I can now release the heel, grabbing the hip. Here. Now from here, all we need to do is to push her over. I use my head driving forward and stepping behind my opponent into a side control. So pop up again. Shimmy a bit. So I'm cupping the knee, grabbing the ankle. Here. I pull it down. She's unable to sprawl. I step up. I collect the leg. I switch up to the hip. Here. From here, quite often she'll probably whizzer, giving up on the neck. So whizzer with your left, my arm. So there. And now from here, we're into a dog fight where we're in the dominant position. We start moving around behind, so the butt hits the ground. Step to pass the guard. Well, that's the best way I find to grab that leg in turtle. If it ever pops too close to you, cup the knee, pull the ankle, step up, collect it between yours, and move to your dog fight. So if we're cool with that, move on to your drilling, or ask me about it, take notes. It can be any situation in the turtle that you struggle with, or offense with turtle. Do you have any questions? So you're looking at me with your questions.
Ross, could you show me the escape from earlier where the arm shot your knee under? When
Yeah.
the detail where when you roll under, how you don't, how you can protect your back from getting paid.
Because so the thing that stops my back from being taken when I roll under is the leg position. So that leg being behind my opponent means there's no way for her to get that hook over to the far side. That leg also, well, her leg blocks the near side hook from coming in, right? So, oh, that's good. So we shimmy. So my leg, shimmy again, is behind hers. So if I get you, like if I roll under here without my leg being there, it's correct with my back still being taken. But this back leg kills her mobility and stops her from being able to put any of her hooks in. So that's what's stopping. So now here we trap the arm. He comes in. I lie onto my side, throwing my elbow up, hitting her in the chest. And there's my reversal. Now from here, you don't get your back taken because you're going to turn in, hands immediately go into the hips, pushing up and away. Now your feet have to stay active. If we're both recovering from a recent takeaway, I'm driving my weight over my opponent. Okay, so pushing off the hips, and then you're going to be kicking off your feet onto them. But it's really important there that you move high up your opponent when you finish that technique. Hip swishing to face the feet, whatever that hip switch side control may be, a twister side control, push up, get your body as high as possible. So Susie will illustrate it. So the position we end up in, she switches and faces my feet. She's not in a great position if she's low down my body. So this is where we finish. It does look like potentially I could get on her back, but that will not happen, providing she pushes off the hips and gets her rib cages up across both of my armpits. Now there's no way I'm getting onto the back there. We covered the counters of this last week, where I would attempt to turn into my opponent, looking for her to take a mount. So if she took a mount, I would then be able to extract my lower leg and attack the back for an octopus side control back kick. Is that good?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Cool. So, the next turtle escape, guys. Sometimes it's going to be too much weight on our hips. So she's facing up like this. So there's no way I'm going to be able to step behind her or shovel her forward for a grab. So what we're going to do is lie onto your side here. This gives me a really good opportunity to potentially collect the back leg. So my hips drop faster than what she can follow. So from this position, my back leg will come in and collect her heel. And I'd look to set up this position. She's slicing way too far away. End up. So if we're in circle, we can continue to fall away from our opponent. So if I can't step my leg up behind here, I throw this knee in, and as I fall, there'll be room for me to kick that back leg back. So here, everyone see, as I fall, as I throw this knee in, my back leg shoots back. There. This gives me opportunities to collect the back foot. So I drag, as I fall onto my side fully, I'll collect only the foot. And then I'll suck my arm back, hitting my underhook, and we'll end up in this knee slice, half guard position. So that is us, underhooking in a knee slice position, cup in the knee, cup in the hip. Okay, so it's important here. We turtle. In order to create the space to do that, I've got to throw my knee in, my arm will go through as well. At the same time as I fall, my back leg will kick straight. Here. That will then allow me, my hands will drop down onto that lower leg, collecting the foot, moving into this knee slice half guard position here, where I'm cupping the hip, and it's important with this hip cup that you wrap your fingers around the hip bone. This is really bad, not up on the meat, not up on the rib cage. Fingers around that hip bone gives us excellent control from here. So I often do something like this, starting in side control. I turn away, doing the correct bridge up. My opponent is chasing my hip, they're very good, but I continue to fall, going all the way through. There is my window to collect and come to this position. The only reason I can do that is I'm creating space between our hips. So I can back, collect the leg, in. And that's where we'll stop that. Everyone happy with that? If not, give me a shout.
Yeah. Ross, I hope I don't hijack your flow with this question, but once you get to that position, What if they backstep into the saddle?
Oh, I love that. So I take that back. Right, so actually I'll leave that one just for now. Give it a couple of minutes for people to drill. It's called a ninja hook, but it's a great question. Like, I manipulate that position a lot to hit a lot of counters off it. You're absolutely right. People, if you're underhooking in that position, one of the primary things they'll go for is the back step. And if heel hooks are involved, they're back stepping into leg entanglements.
Could you do it one more time? I'm writing my notes and I've just missed a bit.
Of course. Right. So she's connected to my hip to generate a bit of space there. I can kick my left leg straight. Knee comes in to replace that. And now here, I lie onto my side, collecting that foot. Now we end up in a knee slice with an underhook and grabbing that knee. So yeah, falling away creates that space for me just to collect the foot here. Right, so I had a great question from Ennis, which is, pop up. My opponent is now knee cutting me. So that's his name over my thumb. But we've got the underhook. One of the things I can do is backstep into saddle entries or 4-1-1, whatever you'd like to call it. So that's this leg stepping back behind my knee, and then my opponent sitting down. Okay, I grab my secondary leg, move back this way. Into this leg entanglement before 4-1-1. So pop up again. Knee slice again. So since he's knee cut in, ended up here, there's an opportunity for her to step this leg backward, putting her knee behind the back of my knee. From this, she will sit down on the floor, grabbing my secondary leg, and now she ends up in the 4-1-1 with that, my primary or secondary leg. So, my favorite counter move for this is to use ninja hooks, right? So, best camera angle. As she backsteps, my left leg, my top leg, is going to hook under her heel. So as she backsteps, I probably need a closer camera angle. Pivot around a bit, please. So, probably the best there. As Susie backsteps, this top leg goes underneath that lower leg. So now, when she keeps on traveling, don't just pull backwards a bit. I have this foot hooked. This protects my leg and gives me a lot of counter-attack options. So one is she may continue falling. If her butt hits the floor, I keep hold of her hip. Big important thing, guys. In gi or standard, she's going to end up in a reverse half guard. In reverse half guard, the battle is she wants to get her hip away from me and turn my hips to face her. I want my knees staying facing the ceiling and having her hips close to me. This hook protects my leg. From here, I can release it. There's no more threat of the leg, and with the other leg. And then off of this, I turn in, sitting up and sweeping my opponent. And back up again. So it's a really important habit, I think, to get into. Up here. And the hook and she back steps. And I catch her. Back step really fast. Try to catch her. Come on, back again. So she back step faster, back step. My foot will always make it underneath this leg. So that you drill it. If you've got a partner, come back. So we're not going to drill it. So just back step slow, fairly quickly. And I find the hook. She comes back again. Everyone can see that foot in back step. Hook comes under that little leg. Change the angle up a bit. She back step. Hook comes under here. Now, there's times where we miss it. Really important then to keep on facing this way. We do not want her to turn us. So as she sits down, we attack her back step. As she sits down, start attacking the leg. Sit back. I am still facing this way because now I'm turning my heel into my opponent's rib cage, making it difficult for her to get under the heel and finish in that heel hook. What I see all too much with this position is people following their leg. If you follow and turn in, you are opening your heel from your opponent's rib cage. She will get underneath it and take your leg. So it's important that you always maintain this angle, always facing the other way. It turns your heel into the ribs, making it hard for your opponent to finish. So pop up again. Now, the Jedi mind trick, back tick. As she back step, I hook. She doesn't put her butt on the floor. Her butt is floating off the ground.
What do you want?
So now her hip is up off the ground. I can use this hook to place this hip back in front of me. So hand stays on the hip. I duck under her arm and place her butt in front of me instead. I come up and now start attacking the back. Best person to watch with, so the move's called the Jedi mind trick, and Ryan Hall uses it a lot. So he gets to this position, his opponent back steps. The first thing you have to get into a habit of, so as she back steps, is hooking this foot. Backward. So you're going to do it. As I back step, this hook comes in. Back step comes in, hooks in. This hand will be on my hip to start with, far hip. As I back step, hook. This hand will come into my armpit and she will duck under my arm. This leg will gently extend, placing my hip on the other side. I might still be dangling on her leg at this point. All Susie needs to do now is straighten this leg and start coming up on top. And she's on my back. So that's my answer to that question. If you know people are going to be attacking that leg, to be safe, make sure you always stay facing that direction and get used to that pummel. You will miss it a lot early, but it becomes second nature. Get into the habit of it.
That's great. Thank you.
Ross, when you're looking for that hook, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about your foot, trying to find their ankle? Are you trying to lift your knee up, or sort of heel your own butt? Like, I can't really tell.
As you travel, the easier it is to place it. So, sorry, the habit from the foot. So, if my foot, we shouldn't be around it, and back. So if my leg is like straight, that's got a lot of distance to travel to get in. So I bring my knee up fairly high So now when she back steps, it doesn't have very far to travel to get under there. My leg is straight and she back steps. It's likely she's going to beat me to it and get her leg the entanglement. So here I'm always driving my knee up as high as I can. So when she back steps, it's not very far to hide the foot under that heel. Now, if she goes all the way through the movement and her hips hit the ground, we switch the hooks, kicking up, following up, pop back over the other side here. If she back steps again and keeps her hip up off the ground, I'll find the armpit, duck under it, and kick her off, placing her hips in front of her. From here, I'll start coming up onto the top and getting onto the back. So
really, from the underhook, you shouldn't really be in that position without trying to knee them in the butt a little bit to off balance them anyway. So
forward, that position is made far worse there if they're able to sit back on you and particularly start straightening arms. Up you want them moving forward the whole time.
Okay.
It makes it. I'd almost. So if Susie's kneecapping, pop it up, and I'm trying to underhook here, and then she's like straight arming me. So she's got like C grips in my armpit, facing up on this leg, and she's just pushing backwards. So she releases. I may even still have my underhook. She may be getting up underneath my chin, straight arming, like here. I don't want that distance. I want to be tight, nudging her forward.
Yeah.
What I might even do here is release my underhook, switch to a frame and to a knee shield. Kind of lost the effectiveness of the underhook there from that distance. So when we hit it, we cut the hip and we shoulder roll forward, getting as much weight onto her arms as possible. We talk about this a lot in attacking the back. We want that weight traveling forward, we want that knee high, we want our shoulder rolling up here. The same underhooking and hard guard, I think. Question. You want their weight traveling forwards when you underhook.
Cheers.
That's not bad, Mike. I just watched it, Mike. So with that one, you have to switch your hooks. That's if her hips hit the floor. So you have to switch the right hook when her hip hits the floor. If you keep your hips facing the other way, it will keep her hip up off the ground. That's what gives you the option to then place her hip back in front of you. Is if you keep the alignment of your hips facing the other way. So if you do it again, I'll talk through it. We'll try. So as she back steps, hook, left foot under. Now stay facing me. There, we stay here. Right hand moves up, that's it. Right hand moves up to the armpit, pushes her off in front of you. So her hips drop off there. So put her hips on the ground. Now left hand reaches across to the lower hip across her waist. That's it. Grab that. Now pop up onto your knees. Now right hand comes up over the shoulder, and that's your move. That was good. perfect. Oh, wow. So right. So we'll just cover what my opponent is trying to achieve here. If they're not going for leg locks, now I can't stress enough, you don't want to be pinching heavy on this leg when they backstep. If you do, and Susie so backsteps, throws the leg in, and sits down on the floor and grabs my head, if I'm pinching super hard, if I'm pinching super hard, I lose all control over my hips. So if I'm really squeezing tight enough, her hand will come in and make it's very easy for her to get my hips pointing the way she wants to. That way, pushing it back. You really don't want to have your feet crossed, your knees pinched here. It's just way too easy for her to manipulate your knees. So if she pulls this way, it's gone. So the trick when we end up here is to plant our feet on the ground. I'm not crossing my feet here. And I've got a slight turn this way. My hand is cupping the hip. That's what I want as the bottom player in reverse half guard, is my knee at least pointing to the ceiling, if not fractionally this way. What Susie wants as the person passing is to cut my far knee and to pull my knees down to the ground, keeping her shoulder on my face, fingers in the armpit. She wants her butt up, level with my hips, so she doesn't want it off the ground. She wants it on the floor, but her hips level with the line of my head. So she gets this nice twist in my back here. What I'd be looking to do to recover from you is to walk back under and to get my knees facing the ceiling again. Okay, so that's the battle that's going on here. Now, in terms of passing, Susie's going to walk up, pulling my knees down to the ground. Here, she's got a couple options. She can free her leg, so she can use her left leg on my lower thigh. Wait. The easiest way to pull this leg out is to place that left leg on the thigh, cup my upper leg, and she's going to pull the upper leg as she kicks with the lower. So it opens my legs. She's then going to switch to a punch, turning my hips away and go into side control. Now we can start going through our escapes again. So I could work a bit of room, start turning onto my side, come in up into my turtle and going through those chains. Sometimes up again. My opponent is new cutting. What does she want here? She's going to back step, underhook, and grab my armpit. So as her butt hits the ground, she wants to pull my knees down to the ground, shrimp. Left leg comes onto the thigh. She kicks and pulls simultaneously, and now pushes this top leg away. Turn it in. So I just want you to understand what the passer is looking for there. They're looking to manipulate the hips, which is made easier by the squeeze on the leg. This that applies in a lot of different positions actually. So the time I take advantage of that most is when people cross their legs really heavy in a half guard. So we all fight these people, locked down super tight. The tighter they squeeze and want to control this leg, the easier it is to turn their hips. Okay? So whenever I'm fighting somebody like this, all I do is go this way. I raise my knee. Now, Susie unlocked her guard there for no reason. Somebody's really squeezing their legs. It makes it easier to turn the hips to the other side. If she's playing with loose legs, she's quite relaxed, it's a lot easier, it's a lot harder to manipulate where her hips are pointing. If she's crossing her legs super tight, it's easy to turn them to the other side. So, yeah, the heavier you're pinching your legs, the easier it is to manipulate your hips. If you want to drill that, get some reps in, and if you want to throw some questions at me, shout.
So should you not pinch your legs then when you're doing that, Ross? Or just don't do it when they're moving?
I don't. I find as the passer, when somebody's pinching their legs like that, it's very easy to manipulate. But I don't cross my legs a lot in half guard at all. I play very open half guard. But never say never. I mean, Steve Fage, he's super technical and he crosses hard in half guard. So yes, it's on your style, but that's how I would attack that. Just pinching my knees very tight, their knees very tightly, pinching my leg tight. I move to the side and turn the hips.
If someone's got their half guard, when Orlando's like when we got a gi on, he gets a collar grip. He doesn't necessarily pull his knees together, but he pushes his top knee shield into my hip quite a lot and pulls on the other leg.
He's playing a Z guard.
Yeah. Can you do the same? Can you manipulate the hips in the same way by that using that step?
A little bit harder. If his legs aren't crossed and he's turning heavy onto that, then it's a bit harder.
Because he's got his hip engaged.
Yeah, okay. You can still do it. So yeah, if they're playing a Z guard, which is not legs crossed but crossed,
yeah,
I'd be straight arm in the armpit.
Okay.
You've got a bunch of options. You can squash the hook by sprawling heavy through your right hip and your right hip only, coming down to something like this.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you could pick your knee up, but you've got to bring it up and then open and step across. But it all depends on how heavy they're turning.
Yeah.
But yeah, good question. I tend to always be looking to stand up and square my opponent up to the other side.
Yeah. They look like they've broken into a bloody gym there. How much space they got?
Yeah. We might have that soon.
Yes.
Yeah, we've currently got 3 people working from home in this flat, so that's why I can only do 8 o'clocks. Because this is
everyone's still working.
A lot of the time, people are still working at 8.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry guys, but you've been working for 12 hours. Right, guys, we're coming up on 9. Hope you all enjoyed. If there's any questions or anything you'd like to throw at me, we'll do a bit of a Q&A if you'd like. Yeah, fire away. If not, see you Monday.
Cheers, Ross.
Cheers, Ross and Susie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on Monday.
If you don't forget to put the pictures on the group.
I'll put pictures up. You'll laugh at my
Thank you.
styling.
Go Pilates on Monday.
Yes, go parties on Monday. See you all.
Cheers.
Bye.
You right.